When me touch down, better broke down.
Gamtel G-Fiber, now you can enjoy super fast internet in gigabytes. G-Fiber is affordable, stable, secured, and accessible to homes, businesses, and enterprises. With Gamtel G-Fiber, the future is speed. Gamtel, creating a brighter future in communication.
That's how she became mine and see that.
Agada.
Mbijan aganya.
Albaka.
Mbaka important.
Yo, nga transfer la sto.
Ya transfer la sto.
Ha, code nyingi.
Okay. Kosa. Nsila ID soto.
Ah, soto. Sorry. Agada.
Mbijan bro.
Albaka.
Mbaka.
Bara Allah service o tariaka.
Ah,
mbare ki janna nun kunu bara tariaka.
Ah, jannom yona forest de bureau. Gambia tonkon na no mbari ya bere. Ha. Birin koyna fo kato.
Bari si kodo kino kato ni fo bolong labe.
56 branches mola soto Gambia jam.
Ha?
Ha. Gambia kono anin Gambia bantala bankol. Nko kodo kiya bere. Kodo sifa fo palindiro fo nyaadi lafta memmen na kodi to poto nin kodi maraw. Jannam number 1 ti nyonta. Andum fana nata anoda enterprise sotale. Wolam nyindi ko domorol fana kol fana be firale de dadi man domorol bil fana beteat. Gambia dawda yalo ngam fa kendol sotale je.
Ha wo mo yo diat ha.
Apelenta
baraka ni ma lafta nyelen kendol e bina.
Yalo bu kanyi la ko la baraka ba.
Yalo ndel chosano lo.
Baraka.
Of owning your dream homes, EJ Investment is here for you. Secure our quality bungalows with 2, 3, or 4 bedrooms, or our story buildings 3 or 4 to 5 bedrooms at very affordable prices with flexible payment plans at our Sanyang Seaview Estate, where you can enjoy the cool breeze with modern infrastructure such as tarot covered drainage system, modern electrification with street lights, gated entrance with security posts, and social amenities such as gas station, shopping mall, medical clinic, park, schools, children daycare, and a lot more. Our dedicated team of professionals will keep the estate clean at all times, provide security and patrol team within the estate premises, install latest technologies such as CCTV, Wi-Fi, home network installation, solar panel, and power backup system. Also, check out for our additional home facilities and interior design service such as premium tiling, wall plaster, home landscape, fingerprint home lock, and a lot more. Visit our office at Senegambia Kololi Highway and get a free site visit tour, or contact us on 4464-838. WhatsApp us on 3259220. Or you can visit our Facebook page or Instagram on EJ Investments. EJ Investments, we are first in properties.
In communication, connectivity is everything. We ensure that the links never sleep. Quantities and qualities all in our data service, providing efficient, reliable voice and data service. We believe if you're not up to speed, then you're going backwards. Communications have to flow as fast as the speed of light. Whatever business you're in, having someone who understands your needs is critical. That is why we just don't offer you technology, we offer you solutions. Enjoy Gamcel's internet broadband anytime, anywhere. Your national operator, Gamcel, Yaibaram.
All right.
Honey, did you remind him that the last time he sent the money, it was not enough to buy all the provisions?
Oh, sorry, I forgot to tell him.
Are you guys talking about money transfer to buy provisions?
Yes.
But don't you know about Baluwo?
Baluwo? What is Baluwo?
Baluwo is a service that your son can use to send provisions directly to you guys from the shop. And you don't have to worry about the exchange rate.
Tell me how Baluwo works.
It's very simple.
Just log on to baluwo.com and shop, or download the app on your phone. You can shop on the website or using the app to buy online basic products for your family and friends. With Baluwo, you decide what your money is spent on. Your money, your choice. Buy online products for your family and friends in the Gambia, Senegal, Nigeria or Mali. Baluwo, better than sending money.
Hello and welcome to the brunch on Kerfatu. I'm Lamincha. I'm welcoming you to our weekly current affairs show coming to you from our studios here in, it's Bigelow, Tranquil, I would call it. And once again, of course, the topic is the state of public emergency, which has been, well, let me not say extended, but freshly declared is what the officials want us to say. And with me in the studio, or rather with me in this show to discuss this is my fellow panelist, Nima Kamara, who is all the way in the United States. Nima, welcome.
Thank you.
And we have Omar Ceesay, the president of the Gambia Transport Union. He will discuss still ahead about the welfare of drivers and transport operators as far as the SOP is concerned. Omar, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Ibrahima Sankanu is information officer as well as a member of the government's emergency COVID response committee, and he will enlighten us with more details about the regulations which have just been, well, let me not say extended, but maybe freshly declared with new amendments. Sankanu, are you there? Is Sankanu with us? Hello, Sankanu? Hello, Sankanu. Well, we will cross over to Imam Babali, of course, a prominent Islamic leader who will talk, I guess, about everything, but particularly, of course, the reopening of places of worship, and in his case, mosques, which have been reopened, but with new regulations, and he will enlighten us as to how do you lead a mosque, or how do worshippers continue worshipping without, of course, some of the basic things that are required in order to worship or observe the 5 daily prayers. Of course, we are on abnormal times, of course, but Imam Leigh has been on top of issues, and he will enlighten us, and we can put questions to him too. Imam Leigh, are you with us?
Yeah, I'm with you, Cham.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Sankanu, you are not hearing us. Can you hear us now? Hello, Sankanu? Well, Mr. Sankanu, the technicians will deal with that, but now we go straight to the topic. Now, on Thursday should have served as the last day of the initial state of public emergency, which was declared by President Barrow, in reality, of course, prompted by the sudden rise in the cases of COVID-19 in the country. Now, in the evening of Thursday, the president again declares another state of public emergency, maintaining many aspects of the initial declaration. For example, the curfew, which starts at 10 o'clock to 5 a.m. And all other, restrictions such as the closure of educational institutions, madrasas, colleges, daras, majlis, and gamos, as well as tertiary institutions such as schools, except perhaps grade 12 students who are on exam beginning from 17 August to 7th September. And also, of course, according to the new regulations, people who are in violation of the curfew and doesn't have money on them to pay the fines, they will now go and do community work free of charge. Interesting features in there. Nima, let me begin by asking you, what do you make of the amendment or the new declaration? Because basically everything is the same.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Lamin Cham. At this point, I think it's very hard to criticize these measures. As you have rightly mentioned, these are abnormal circumstances, especially seeing the surge in the COVID-19 cases and the death that is incoming every day. If you're on Facebook or any other social platform, you are always greeted very early in the morning with so many announcements of death. So that is very scary, even for those of us who are outside of the country. The only concern I have, though, is the impact this is going to have on businesses, especially because it's been a long time running where certain businesses have been forced to close. So there is a need to strike a balance somewhere. I'm not in a position to say what kind of balance need to be in place, but I just hope that the declarations are not just happening in a blanket manner, that the government is in contact with stakeholders, with experts from all across the board concerning so many issues like the economy, social issues, and so on and so forth, to ensure that the impact is going to be minimal. Because if you see what is happening in other countries, they revamp their efforts in educating people to ensure that people readily embrace these measures, so that with education, you wouldn't need the government to put in place these many regulations that is going to affect businesses. But when people truly embrace the measures and they understand that this is the pandemic is real and it's deadly, then it becomes a part of their way of life. The wearing of masks become part of them. When they go into public places, they do so merely because there's a need for it. And even if they are there, they ensure that they establish social distancing. This is what I have seen here. Here, places of worship are open, but people have been educated to know that they can only pray besides their cars to distance themselves from the rest of the other people that they do not share the same vicinity with. And people go to the market only when it is necessary. And in the markets, there are signs, there are instructions that says you cannot enter here without a mask, that also make sure that you observe social distancing at least 6 feet between you and the next person. So with that education, these many regulations would not be necessary. So again, I just want to summarize to say that these are extraordinary times. It's hard to criticize any measure that the government can put in place, but I just want to make sure that we are doing the right things. We are not just declaring state of emergency just because it is the safest thing to do.
Right, Nima, let's cross over to Sankanu. I hope he's with us, but he's been coming and going. So let's go to Imam Babali. Imam, welcome to the brunch. And let me ask you specifically, the regulations we're all familiar with, but now the mosques and churches can reopen. In your case, how do you think worshippers who are going to adopt with these new measures, where they have to perform ablution in their homes and they have to come with their own masks and they have to observe social distance. They cannot use water or any sanitary facilities in the mosque, and they have to depart 15 minutes after prayers and 15 minutes before they have to arrive. How do you see these new measures now, and as regards to worshiping? Hello, Imam? Hello, Imam. Let me cross over to Omar Ceesay. Oh, Sankanu, are you there now? Can you hear us? Hello, Sankanu? Hello, Sankanu.
Crazy.
Well, I think those two have problems with that. Okay, Omar Ceesay is the president of the Gambia Transport Union. Omar, your question specifically, I want to begin by asking you, when these new measures, the curfew particularly, was introduced, because the other regulations have been there, How did it affect the operations of the transport operators?
Yeah, Mr. Cham, truly speaking, since the government brings these new measures, we are facing challenges because you understand Gambia here, most of our taxi drivers are operating by night. And our the good side, like trucks who are carrying non-essential service, they need to travel by night. So as of now, we are seeing those people from here to buses will cost them 2 days or 3 days before arrival at buses. Because if we departure here by 6 or 7, they will by 10, they will park until 5 a.m. So they are the nature of weather here, the vehicle cannot run by daytime. We are receiving a lot of challenges about it, but we are coping with it. We all know it is due to pandemic and it's abnormal, but it's very difficult as this moment.
Yeah, let me ask specifically. You've been asked at the time to reduce transport capacities to half the capacity of cars. But with the introduction of compulsory mask wearing, did you now have to take full capacity as I'm seeing now on the road?
Now, yes, now we are carrying full capacity because of the new regulations. Any passenger before enters the vehicle have a face mask. If driver valid that end of the day, we will face charges of $1,000. As of now, more than 20-something drivers have been put before the court. They will fine for $1,000 or 1 imprisonment. But nonetheless, we all know the transport capacity, the volume level is a little bit minimal now. We can see now the people are not moving frequency like before. So it's not easy, but we are facing challenges. Before the people are moving, and now it's a little bit different. So we are facing a lot of challenges on this, but we are coping with it. It's not easy, but we try to manage it, how to control it so that we can contain the COVID-19 in this country.
Yes, still on you. I mean, the regulation says both the driver and the passenger who refuses or failed to wear a mask are responsible. How do you reconcile these two, where you have your drivers been convicted for the failure or fault of passengers? How do you react to that?
Yeah, we understand the regulation. I understand the authorities give driver responsibility to control the passenger on board. But what the regulation says, what the police are implementing for me is a little bit different. But the regulation says any driver don't allow anyone to enter your vehicle without a face mask. But the passenger also don't enter the public without a face mask. So if this situation happens, the police will keep drivers and allow the passenger to go. So they are all in fault side. I think these two people need to face full force of the law so that tomorrow we can avoid it. But if the park driver, you allow the passenger to go, so that means selective justice on this.
Now, there have been packages adopted or passed by government for various sectors of the economy affected by COVID. For example, the journalists or media houses have been given $15 million, hotel operators, etc. All have been allocated money. Are the drivers covered in this?
No, not yet.
But are you hopeful it's gonna?
I don't think.
Why?
One time they call us at National Assembly Select Committee on state of emergency. We discussed on this type of issue with them. They have been promising they will call us. We continue, but after that day up to now, we don't receive that type of information from anyone. So that's why I say I don't expect him to have that type of support from the government.
So who is actually affected? Is it the transport owners or the drivers in your case? For example, if the government was to extend relief, where do you think this is necessary?
I can say both, because most of the drivers are on their own vehicle, or most of the passengers, I don't know, the vehicle owners, but we can say both, they are all affected, because even drivers are adding, the vehicle owner cannot benefit from it.
Now, these are not moments where you can consider strikes. I mean, you have been considering, actions like strike where your grievances are not met. Do you still have any pending issues with the government?
Can you come again?
Do you still have any pending grievances with the government as far as these emergencies are concerned?
Not yet. We are discussing with them through our Ministry of Transport regarding the issue. We all know things are not easy, but we engage them up to the last ladder. If we're going to see any development, if it's necessary, we see what best we can do as an executive.
All right, you stay there. I'll come back to you. I hope Imam Babali is now ready now. Imam Leigh, are you with us? Are you with us now? I cannot hear you. Hello? Well, we have technical problems with hearing Imam Babali. Let me try again. Hello, Imam. Are you with us now? Well, the problem is that.
That's the question. He can hear.
Yeah, but whether we can hear him, this is the issue now. I was going to ask Imam, how do you think now, Imams such as yourself and other worshippers of the Islamic religion will cope with the new regulations where you have to perform ablution only at home, you cannot use any water around the mosque, you have to bring your own mat, you have to observe social distance, and you have to leave 15 minutes before or arrive 15 minutes before and leave 15 minutes after any prayers. How do you think one should do to cope with these regulations, if you can hear me well? Can you hear me now?
You can't hear him.
Yeah, that's the issue. We still have technical problems with you, Imam. People cannot hear you. If I cannot hear you, that means our viewers cannot hear you. That's the issue. Ibrahim Sankanu, who's been struggling to come. Sankanu, can you hear us? It looks like Sankanu is hearing, but his voice is not heard here. Hello, Sankanu, can you hear me? Well, we have problems with Sankanu. Let me go back to Nima. What do you observe from Mr. Ceesay's, reactions to the latest measures as well? Sankanu, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Wow, thank you very much. At the beginning of the program, I read out the new measures that have been announced. Well, I refuse to call them extension because government actually didn't want to call it extension, but the new declaration of the powers had some amendments. I was going to ask you specifically, why are these new amendments now necessary? For example, the reopening of mosques, etc., etc.
Well, thank you very much. And as I said before, we are learning to live with COVID. Even we are in the event that we find a cure for it, we contain it, manage it. We have to learn to live with it.
All right. What about issues?
So, and then, like I said, the rules are not monolithic. We have to modify as the trajectory of the pandemic goes. So right now we see the need that we cannot keep people sitting down at home forever. They have to go ahead with their daily lives. So we have to do it in a way that it is safe and it will not be beyond control. So the opening of mosques and churches and other worship centers is part of that, preparing the population for the new reality. And then, yeah, that's why the decision was made to allow mosques to open, but with modifications on how they should go about things.
Many people are worried that, of course, issues such as mosques and churches can bring issues because social distancing and observing of these precautions are much more difficult there than elsewhere.
Well, looks like, the message is trickling down and we are getting the cooperation of the religious leaders. But what they fail to understand, because they usually compare the market and the mosque, they will say, okay, the duration of prayers is short, while the duration of people spending market is longer. But what they fail to understand that, the time it takes, for COVID to spread is even shorter. Because sneezing is faster and unpredictable, and it can happen anywhere. You can stand in a mosque, somebody near you sneeze, and then you already, pass it on to 10 people around you. So, yeah, for what we get, the feedback we are getting is that, there is high degree of compliance, which, we are satisfied. So there's no need for us to apply penalties when we think good.
And issues such as religious rights, such as, funerals, naming ceremonies, etc., all have been said to be stopped or at least put on a minimal in terms of attendance. But this has not been the case. What guarantee do we have that with these new measures they will be strictly observed?
Yeah, for now, what we are getting is that, naming ceremonies and all other events, people are complying, are prohibited. Exception is granted for funeral, but, maximum 10 people should be there. And they have to get in touch with the safe and dignified burial team of the response pillar, so as to guide them and advise them accordingly. We can stop people from going to naming ceremony, but that is something it can happen anytime. And when it comes, of course, it has to be private, not more than 10 people, and they have to inform the authorities so that it can be safe and then well organized.
Lamjap, I have a question.
There's a question for you from Nima Kamara. Yes, go ahead.
I hear Mr. Sankanu said we are hearing that there are compliance, and if that is the case, I think that's commendable. But I'm concerned about where or how you are getting this feedback. How are you getting feedback that the measures in place are being implemented effectively?
Yeah, the police, every day the police submit a report. I remember the first night of the first state of emergency, the police was out. There was high degree of compliance. And subsequently, when people are violating, so we have 24 hours, the full force, the security are always out to enforce. And whenever there is breach, they report. And based on that report, we can measure the success of the regulation. So every day we get reports from the police and other security forces who go on patrol to monitor and to enforce.
Even to the mosque and into communities to see if gatherings are happening?
Yeah, the report, because we got a complaint for communities say that the police are not leaving them alone. There are cattle herders who say that the police are going out to complain. The mosque is something that is new. It started this week, and we are getting feedback, last Friday, that, there's high degree of compliance. And then when police go, they enter into civilian plain clothes, mix with the prayers, and observe. And then there are regulations. Any mosque that doesn't comply will get the report. But for now, we are yet to get any report saying that mosque XYZ did not comply.
Omar Ceesay, you are operating on the transport. Do you have any question for the emergency committee of which Mr. Sankanu belongs? Which he belongs?
Yeah, my brother, Mr. Sankanu, how are you?
I'm fine, sir. How are you doing?
I'm good. I want to ask you one question regarding to the border closures, because for me, borders are not closed yet because people are coming both day and night, even the corridors.
Well, we understand that, but there's a penalty for illegal crossing into the border, which is $5,000, unless you are a diplomat, humanitarian, or you are transporting in goods, like transport trucks that are transporting essential commodities. They are exempted. If a truck driver comes that he's transporting commodities and it is verified, he or she will not be stopped. So, of course, there are leakages. As you said, the Gambia-Senegal border is like a sponge, people sneaking in through. And this is a challenge that we face from the beginning. And our security system is overstretched. We are busy enforcing the state of emergency domestically. And the borders, what we are doing is trying to engage the border community through sensitization, having community vigilante groups going around, working with the security forces to help. And that's what we have been doing from the beginning. Of course, human beings are stubborn, but if the law catches them, they have to pay 5,000 or they go and clean the market for a week. So we are not compromising on that one. And yeah, we understand the challenges that are there, but we are doing our best based on the resources at hand.
Now, let's cross over to Imam Babali, whom we have been waiting all along to have his input. Imam, if you're hearing me very clearly now, what I want to start with you is how do you think the reopening of the mosque and the measures that are put in place, such as non-performing of ablution at mosques, you have to leave 15 minutes after prayers, etc. How do you think the Muslim community is coping with this? Well, I cannot hear you. Hello, are you there? Yeah, we cannot hear you, and if I can't hear you, nobody's hearing you too. I think we still have technical issues to do with this. It looks like it's from your end because we can hear everybody on the panel. Mima, on what they've said about land borders, or Sankanu perhaps I should go to. Omar mentioned about land borders. Now the Ministry of Tourism is saying that they intend to open the Gambia International Airport for tourism in October. Quite a controversial issue now because a lot of people have expressed a concern about that. Now, as far as your emergency committee or committee is concerned, how are you going about this?
Well, like I said, this is an expression of interest. I mean, they have to plan. COVID-19 is here. Every sector, you have to plan. What will happen after the pandemic? It doesn't mean that if you plan something, I mean, it is finished and then nothing can be happen. of course, it depends on the trajectory of the pandemic. I mean, based on, as the minister's statement said, based on the advice of the Ministry of Health and also the National Health Emergency Committee, which are part of. We look at the development, and also I made something very important. The countries that are sending tourists, tourists to this country, they always issue travel advisory to their citizens. And the way it is, like I said, countries like Germany already classify Gambia as a high-risk destination. What I recommended from the Ministry of Tourism and the stakeholder is to engage those countries, the British government, the Scandinavians, the Europeans, so that they can issue travel advice that are favorable to the country. Because we can do all the preparation, all the investment. But if the British issue a travel advice saying that Gambia is high risk, nobody's going to come. So it is multidimensional, and we are working on those ones, and we are advising them based on that one. It all depends on, come October, our situation with COVID-19.
Right, and I'm just going to cut in there because the British Foreign or Transport Secretary has just been talking about that. So he said Kenya and the Gambia, by their own statistics, it looks like the situation is not good there, and any British tourist going there is going to do it on his or her own peril. Certainly, that's not good news for the Gambia.
Yeah, well, like I said, it's all the ministry has a plan, and then we also have a plan with the World Bank mitigating, helping the stakeholders in the tourism industry get some form of bailout. So I mean, like I said, we are working on the containment, but we are also planning the mitigation stage, helping all the various sectors that are affected to recover gradually. So they have their plan, but like I said, it all depends on how COVID-19 situation evolves.
Good. Imam Babali is now clear, I hope. Baba, are you with us, Imam?
Well, I'm with you.
You have always been with you. The only problem is we could not hear you. Now, I was going to ask, these new measures, which many people consider...
Cham, let me call you there, because I got all your questions.
Okay, just go on.
I have been listening to you. Number one is, my first answer is that here is a shared problem, it's a shared pandemic. So we all, I feel as a nation, we all need to share the difficulties and try to adjust to meet the demand of this pandemic. So there is no doubt all Muslims and even non-Muslim, let me say all worshippers, being Muslim or Christians, are facing the same problem. But given the fact of the pandemic, how dangerous it is, we need to reorganize ourselves. We need to come back to the drawing board and see what is acceptable Islamically, and then we follow it intact. And so far, so good. Islam has prioritized human life so much so that there are so many issues when it comes concerning life. Islam will take the back seat to allow life to exist. But my problem here is two things, which I really need the authorities to look at. Number one, complaining of closing borders, let us close border, let us close border. I said it's a joke, because really, the fact of the matter is each and every Gambian knows closing border with Senegal is an unachievable dream. We cannot achieve it. And we have been spending all efforts unnecessarily to close the border, to stop people coming from Senegal to Gambia, Gambia going Senegal, Gambia to Senegal, which is a failure. My suggestion from day one was we need to believe what we say. We need to say what we believe. We always say Gambia and Senegal, Bena Bopala Ken Munuko Harnya, is an undividable community, society, nation. So being the case, my expectation was the Gambia as a country, Senegal as a country, they have their expert, they should join effort, join their economic, join all their strategy to fight the pandemic rather than closing the border. Because we all have seen during the Tobaski how difficult it was. And government have focused most of their time on providing SIP for Gambians. To me, which is not necessary. Whereas if our medical ministry and the Senegalese medical ministry and other ministries concerned, all stakeholders came on the board and discussed and joined efforts and treat Gambia and Senegal as one nation, we will be able to achieve better than what we are now achieving. Because you go to Tangier, Senegalese and non are coming. And the other thing, if you listen to our social media, it looks like the pandemic came from Senegal, which is not true. The pandemic is a spread, virus all over the world. It can come from anywhere. And the first case we discovered came from UK to the airport, you know. And Gambia is suffering because of the border of Senegal is closed, and Senegal suffer more than what Gambia is suffering. Think of transport coming from Dakar, crossing Farafenni, going to Casamance, how easy it is to them, how quick it is to them. Instead of that, you close that bridge, and our Senegalese brothers and relatives are crossing all the way to Tambacounda, which is supposed to take them 3 hours, 4 hours, will end up getting them 11 hours. So we are causing those, hardship to our fellow Senegalese, and then we don't realize anything. Whereas I think what we need is to unify our department, the stakeholders, to come together, to do the research together, to come up with results and regulations so that we'll achieve. That's number one. My number 2 point is that the Gambia government, in as much as they are doing a lot of effort, but I feel they don't consider the religious leaders as they're supposed, because the religious leaders are part of the frontline team. But when they talk about frontline, they only mean the medical workers, the security, and the others. That's the reason why how many imams passed away, how many religious leaders passed away. Because whatever happened, what people believe is the religion. And those operating the religion, heading the religion, are the trusted people of any society you go, like it or not. But that's the hard fact. You will call Imam Babali, ask him, Imam Babali, as a doctor, you are a doctor, Imam Baba, take care, be careful. Imam, you should not go to certain funeral. Imam, you have to leave this and that. But when your own close relative die, you want to see Imam Babali there. And this is happening. So now, what a double standard is that? You don't want Baba, you want to preserve Baba's life, but when you have your personal naming ceremony, if Baba is not there, you understand, because Baba is the one you trust. And as the way you trust Baba, there are hundreds of people trust Baba like that, and there are other imams are trusted like that. So what I'm saying is, even this assistance they are offering, imams deserve it more than anybody. I'm not speaking of myself right now, because maybe what I can provide for myself, others cannot provide it. But you have very poor imams that their daily bread depend on their mosque. Their daily bread depend on their naming ceremonies, funerals, fidaus, recitation of the Holy Quran. So if you stop all this and you forgot about them, and those who are better off, the imams, those who are better off, people look at them, coming to them, complaining for their feeding, complaining for their suffering, and the imam is expected to assist, and imam has no salary to assist. So I am urging the government, or the governments, both Gambia and Senegal, to reconsider seriously the position of their religious leaders. We Muslims, we are not as organized as the Christians, where we provide electricity for our religious leaders, where we provide transport for our religious leaders, where we provide everything that our religious leaders need. We left our religious leaders to struggle like the poor rat in the mosque. So really, if we want our religious leaders to be very honest, to face the fact as it is, we need to provide the basic needs for them. This doesn't mean that the imams should relax, should not have profession, should not do their job. But the job they are doing itself is a profession. Look, Cham, when I was in the Gambia here before migrating to America, I used to visit people as an imam at the hospital and not paid. I used to go to funeral, not paid. I used to do so many social work without being paid. But when I migrated to America, and then I have the reorientation there, I was employed as a religious leader, as a pastoral care provider to Georgetown University Hospital, to Johns Hopkins University Hospital, just to visit Muslims there and pray for them. And I was paid $60 per hour any day, and I selected by myself. What I'm saying is the government should be responsible to create possibilities and opportunities to get their religious and to be able to have a respectable living rather than being praise singers of politicians and followers of politicians or anti-government because of their suffering. So really this pandemic, we need to learn a lot out of it, and we have the opportunity to learn. Thank you.
Well, you have not gone completely out now. Stay on there because I'm going to put these concerns across to all the panelists here. Sankanu, I begin with you. According to the Imam, in fact, what Senegal and the Gambia should have done is to find a coordinated network to treat this pandemic as a Senegambia issue, because according to him, the two countries are so close that you cannot say you're going to stop people from coming from one end to the other. So if they join hands and treat all the patients in Senegal, the pandemic in Senegal and the Gambia as one, probably they will really achieve better results than each one running your own show, yet you cannot stop people from coming to one another. That's one point. The other point is he believed the imams and religious leaders who does a lot of voluntary work should be considered too as frontline workers and with all the benefits that come with it. What do you make of it?
Thank you very much, Imam, and thank you, Mr. Cham. Well, actually, what Imam is saying is basically something that we've been working on. It's part of our response mechanism. When we went around the country consulting in the border communities, we realized that cross-border cooperation with Senegal is inevitable, and we submitted the recommendation. And then it is interesting to know that last week we had a delegation from Senegal, Senegal's response team. They came here to work out those modalities, and also not just at bilateral level, but also at ECOWAS level, because we realized that the ECOWAS protocol on free movement of persons is affected, so we cannot do it alone. But by closing the border, we are creating a psychological barrier where we can control, because we know that people will still continue to speak in. But if you say the border is open, we are going to have a floodgate. We'll be overwhelmed as a small country. So using the language border closure, we know that, of course, it's impossible to close the border, but I think psychologically, it's going to reduce the number of traffic. We can manage it while we work with Senegal and other partners and ECOWAS on how to do it together. We are aware of that. It happened in Ebola, where we work with Senegal. So right now, we are working on that one with Senegal to make sure that these cross-border challenges are addressed. On the second point that Imam said, yeah, it's understandable. We also, in our risk communication, we have a regional scholar who came, and he's part of the team. They go all the way to the radio. We understand. We investigated the reason for the initial resistance. Some of the imams, they depend on the money that people are donating to the mosque. We understand. So it's their source of livelihood. And 3 days ago, I discussed it with a member of the cabinet subcommittee. So these are the issues. But the religious leaders, I think they have committees, the Supreme Islamic Council, or the Majalis, or the Council of Imam. They have to come as a collective bargaining group. The government, the Gambia doesn't have that resource to be subvented or a mosque. We don't even have the statistics of the mosque. They are informal settings. So for you to benefit from a subvention, you have to register your organization as a charitable organization recognized by the state. And then, you can apply for subvention. But if you are an informal mosque, there's no accountability. How much money are you collecting on Friday? So you have to be accountable. And then, okay, the state, we need subvention to cover this and that and that. So that law is there to subvent charitable organizations, but not all. The Christians, I say, they are organized. We have the Christian schools, they are organized. They get subvention from the central government because they are organized. With Gambian here, they are organized. Everybody is playing his or her own part. So the religious leaders need to come together as a collective bargaining group, advance these challenges, and then we look at it. And then the government will basically work on it. Like I said, the tourism industry, the stakeholders, they came together, and then they have a mitigation plan. And together with the World Bank, we've organized something. Families that are vulnerable, they literally live from hand to mouth or think of the next launch. We have this 1,500, payment scheme that is starting to support them. So the plans are afoot to support all Gambians, all residents who are affected in one way or the other. But they have to start organizing right now so that because, we are not overwhelmed. So Imam's concern is noted and we are working on that one.
Imam, before I let other people to comment on this, what do you make of Mr. Sankanu's comment that your setup is such separated and so isolated that it's difficult to help you when everybody is doing everything by its own?
Well, that's also well understood. But the fact of the matter is, it's the role of the authorities to help their citizens to organize. It's not the duty of the citizens to initiate by themselves to organize. Look, you have a lot of communities here who are not educated. It is the duty and the responsibility of Sankano and his kind to help and get in the mosque and get in the communities and talk to them. As you know, when they need their votes, they get into their bedrooms seeking for their votes. That's the way they should need to make sure they help them to reorganize. What Baba can do in his mosque, not everybody can do it. For me, as far as I'm concerned, my mosque and my very self, we are not interested on this kind of assistance. You understand? But people are coming all the way from Nemakunku, from all over to Kanifing Mosque, requesting for assistance, requesting for help, requesting for medical support, and they know. And this Supreme Islamic Council you are talking about, the Majlis you are talking about, they themselves, you can use them to get in the communities, in the societies, to help them to reorganize, to come as they will never be able to come one body because of, you know what I mean, Sankano, you know better than I do. You will never be able to bring Gambian Muslim under one umbrella. There have to be at least 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 umbrellas. But at least to organize those umbrellas will be easier than assisting an organized umbrella. So really, I agree with you. But at the same time, I will advise, let us not take the same approach that Canada take to solve their problem and forget ours. We are living in a different circumstances. What is applicable in Canada might not be applicable in the Gambia. What is applicable in Washington might not be applicable in Banjul. So we have to look at our realities. If America announced border closure with Canada, that doesn't mean we should copy the same thing or take those kind of dictates when they are not helpful to us. So the nice word you use, that using that close border as how to call it again?
Psychology.
Psychology. No. That's not necessary. There is no psychology bigger than death. People are dying, and they know the cross border can transmit the sickness. But joining efforts together, joining our resources together, fighting it together is the reality. Gambia and Senegal, you people say it. You always say, and when problems arise in Casamas, we suffer like the Senegalese the way they suffer. When problems arise in the Gambia, Senegal suffer like we do. We migrate to Senegal. So it's a one nation, whereas 2 presidents. So we should be able to make our presidents to understand that we as people, they cannot divide us. Let them come together when it comes to something benefiting both countries. That's all.
Now, Imam, you've been dying perhaps to chip on what Imam said and what responses have been from Sankano on all the issues there.
Yeah, you know, it's important always when we are having conversations like this, we have people like Imam Babali join us. Because as I'm sitting here, I can't agree more with everything that he has said. And if you follow our discussions about COVID-19 from the beginning, this is what we've been talking about. Is the government refusing to recognize that this is not just their fight. This has multiple stakeholders, not just in terms of the responses that needs to be in place, but also in terms of impact. And what I hear from across the board, not just from Ceesay and Imam Babali, but from other quarters, is that the government believes that there is a particular way to go about this, and they impose those things, and everybody else feel the pinch of it. But with the feedback they say they're getting is in terms of how effective their responses and their mechanisms, the regulations they put in place is. But I'm not sure if they're getting feedback in terms of the impact that these regulations are having on the people. And especially, Imam mentioned the vulnerability of our religious leaders. And I think this is something that a lot of us oversighted, is that the imams are not, their responsibility is not just limited to the mosque, but if there is, if that is announced in a community, it is the imam, first of all, who goes to check. So the imams have access to possibly COVID-19 death. The imams are the ones who are called to wash them. The imams are the ones who are called to lead the funeral procession. If there are gatherings like weddings, naming ceremonies, it is the imams who lead these initiatives. So this is where it becomes very important to also bring on board, especially in terms of strategizing how to fight this pandemic, to bring on board not just one imam, but all the imams across the country, if it is possible. The committee, the COVID-19 response committee that the government has established should make it their responsibility that occasionally or on a frequent basis to be meeting with these stakeholders as groups on their own, discuss with them to make sure that they buy into these responses, but also to ensure that they hear from them as far as the impact is concerned, so that mitigation of those impacts can be possible. The opportunities that other people have in other countries is that the government, in trying to ensure that people sit at home, they give them incentives that allows them to sit at home. If you do not have food in your house, then you have a reason to go out to seek for sources of your livelihood. So I have said this, and I'm going to say it again. Our approach in terms of educating, our approach in terms of bringing on board all the stakeholders to make sure that they buy into our responses is not necessarily working. Even if the response mechanisms are working, the impact is going to be greater because many people are feeling this impact now.
Okay, Omar, you had Sankanu there. I mean, in terms of cross-border, I remember there were regulations which said drivers who should cross-border, if the border is open, needs to have a COVID check, COVID test, etc. They must come with a certificate, or driver. There has to be 2 drivers in a truck so that if one tests positive, the other can continue the journey. All sort of things. How has your body reacted to that? How are you going to do that?
Mr. Cham, regarding the border crossing, what the Sankanu said and what the government said, we really had it. But I can say that's not happening. We all know we have the porous borders within Gambia and Senegal. But even the recommended corridors, people are moving. So what was important, I think, for me, I think what is lacking is consultation. You know, and the government alone cannot do this, but government does consult the necessary stakeholders. Like what the Mr. Imam Babali was saying, I totally concur with him. Because government, for me, government is not open in this way. Like, for example, we have a Ministry of Religions, we have Ministry of Transport, we have Ministry of Trade. All institutions have a ministry who are, asking for those ministries to come out to get those people, to engage with them, so that they can come together, finally, and fight against COVID-19. But if government don't want to do it, it cannot work. Because maybe today, much of the drivers are listening to me. If I give advice, they will take it. But if Sankanu told me, they would never even to listen to him. So this is what the government is lacking. Our ministries are asleep. Our ministries are not coming out, because for me, I'm just seeing only the Ministry of, I don't know how to call it, Ministry of Health, just coming out of the people. What about those administrators? This is consumer responsibility. You cannot be in the hand of the Ministry of Health. For me, the way borders are working, for me, it's unnecessary to say we close borders, because it's not closed. That is reality. Whether it's porous or the recommended borders, they are all open 100%. That's the reality of what is happening. But I think to engage in the stakeholders like Senegal, Gambia, we sit and form some modalities, some people opening together. It's much easier to control the COVID-19 in this country. But the way it's going, we are just saying, but it's not happening. So end of the day, it's going to be a zero.
Sankanu, you heard that?
Definitely, since he only said it because the response, the Minister of Health is the front line, is the front ministry, but all of us are working together in this National Health Emergency Committee. And what, the trade or transport, they get their feedback. We get feedback every day, every second. So let's say, like, for example, the Minister of Trade, the modification of the regulation to allow, I say, okay, let them link with their ministry. And when the ministry endorsed, then it was modified that not only food retailers should be open, but non-food traders also should open. So we listen, and based on the impact, we adjust. Good. So what he is saying that, and we listen to their concerns and through their ministry, but although the Ministry of Health is...
Well, Sankanu, your sound is misbehaving, but I heard Nima saying that he wants to chip in there while we regulate.
To this. I think I hear a lot of times asking people to be the ones to come and approach the government. This is not the first time we are hearing this story that people have a responsibility to go and approach the government. That's not the way things work. And I think Imam made mention of this, and I cannot agree more with it. It is the government's responsibility to protect people. Therefore, it is their role to be proactive in seeking means to ensure that everybody is protected. If you know that there is a section of the society that is suffering from the impact, it is the government's responsibility to seek out those people to see how they can help. It is not the other way around, that the government has to sit down until people feel the heat of this pandemic to now approach them to seek for help. That's not how it works. That's what is been happening from the beginning. And it's very sad to have a government that thinks that way, really.
Okay, Sankanu, one more thing before I cross over to
can I come in?
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, okay. I mean, no one prepared for this pandemic. We are all learning as it goes. So we modify it. There's no blueprint last year ready that, anytime there's a pandemic, this is how we have to. So we are all overwhelmed. And secondly, the risk communication that we are part of, it might interest you to know that, we don't have the resources. I mean, most of our activities as we do are funded through partners. So the resources are not limited, are not available. So it is two ways. We go out based on the resources we have, but we also listen to the public. So it is not just one way we sit down and wait until when the public complains or feel the impact. We have a research team that goes out, collect the data. And right now, this support for the vulnerable that we are starting, it is the government initiative that went out based on the experience we gathered through the food supplies, go out, modify the data, and then we start paying out. So it is two ways. The public will reach us and we will go. But the thing is that it is the public's version which is always amplified, because you have the social media, you have the media to go out, while we have to go through the government bureaucracy before we even explain ourselves. But definitely know that, my sister, it is both ways, both ways. And I can bear witness. My telephone is always ringing 24 hours and we are going out. But our resources are also limited based on the reality at hand.
Okay, Sankanu, finally for you, before I go to Imam. Imam, you want to come in there?
Yeah, I want to come there, please, Mr. Cham.
Okay.
The fact of the matter, our biggest problem in the Gambia here, we have so many different interest groups who are always waiting to have a small opportunity to score their goals. And these have been highlighted during this pandemic. Political parties, some of them take this pandemic as a goal to score their goals, to show how weak the government is. I am not saying the government is strong, because if it is strong, we are strong. If it is weak, we are weak as a nation. But we need to help and assist the government as well as religious leaders. There you find more difficulty to convince the religious leaders that this pandemic is real. Some will accuse you as a non-believer. Some will accuse you as somebody who is shameless, who reject somebody's hand, a fellow Muslim hand. Whereas there is nobody to win. This pandemic is we are all to win or we are all to lose. This pandemic knows no UDP, knows no APRC, knows no NPP. They knows nobody. All what they know is human being. So we can only fight this pandemic if we can come together. Number one, to discipline ourselves. We must discipline ourselves. A young lady to ask you to wash your hand before you enter a supermarket, it's not a disrespect. It's just a matter of reminding you. A small somebody that asks you to put up your mask before you get into the mosque, it doesn't mean disrespect in any way. It is just to remind you. But unfortunately, we Gambians, we see things as whoever recall your mind for an important issue. First, what the first question is, yow hale bu tuti bi, you small boy, or yow jigen dina ma wax li. We have to, grow and beyond those thinking of she's a woman or she's a young man or no, those are not applicable. Let us modest ourselves. Whoever you may be, you cannot be more than a human being. Whatever you may have, you cannot have it all. You cannot lose it all. So please, here what we need really is to unify our nation. Let us forget our political campaign, our political propaganda, our personal parties, till we save the Gambian poor life, so that we can go back into order. And the same thing. Let us not play with people's life. If Allah is blessing us with the trust of His servants to believe us and trust us, let us tell them the truth and only the truth. Thank you, Cham.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Imam. And I think we can make leave of Imam, unless we are wrapping up now. Let's go back to Omar Ceesay with Transport Union. Wrapping up, what do you now make of the SOP that is going into the remaining 3 weeks or so, as far as drivers are concerned?
Yeah, we are just managing with it's not easy, but we will try to cope with it because we all know what the opposition is due to pandemic. But I want to talk to my brother with Sankanu. Let the ministries come out, like Minister of Transport today. If the Minister of Transport is at the media houses or this type of platform, all the time will listen to him directly. Because you understand, Gambia, many people are laymen. If Minister of Trade at the panel, all the traders are relating with him. They need to come out. People to show them so that they can listen to them. But only the Minister of Health, people like me or people my followers, they will not bother because they will think it's a health matter. So this is lacking. We are expecting from our business. Let's come out. We are seeing Senegal. We are seeing Minister of Transport, Minister of Interior, Minister of Trade. They will come out daily and discuss with their members, their followers. So what we expect from the Gambia government, our ministries. But please begin, we are coping with it. It's not easy, but we are directly liaising with our Minister of Transport for any challenges or any recommendation. We engage with them. I think as and the way we work, we really appreciate it. We can together. We can fight against COVID-19. Thank you, Mr.
Right, Nima, very quickly. Sankanu will have the last word. Very quickly.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that although the state of emergency declarations may be necessary, but at this point it's becoming lazy and it's becoming just the safest route to take. I think we really need to revamp the education and the sensitization of the public so that people really embrace these response mechanisms. We wouldn't have to need or have the need for the government to continue to declare regulations every now and then.
Sankanu, the last report, the 129, seems to suggest that the number of infected persons is coming down, even though there's 3 more deaths. This is just now, and this is the updated one, 27th August, which says we now have 96 deaths. We have 98 new cases. We have a total now of 2,895, of which 2,048 are active cases. Are we seeing a slowing down of the infections, like what they would normally say, flattening the curve? But then, of course, the death, it's not encouraging. What does the situation look like from your end, the government's end now?
Well, it all has to do with the testing capacity. How many people are coming forward for testing?
Okay.
So testing is not being done in a way that we can detect many cases. So based on where it's going, that is what we can capture right now. So it is too early for us to say that we are flattening the curve when that we still need to do a lot of testing. So that's why we are encouraging, we are improving, we are expanding the testing capacity, decentralizing it. Now one can do testing in URR in Basse, in LRR in Keneba. So we are building our capacity to test, and then the more we test, the more we can know the figures as they grow. Yeah, based on the reality on our capacity, yeah, that's it. But it's still too early. We have to compare the data over a period of time to know whether actually we are going down or we are going up. We are constant.
Okay. I said actually last word. Let me give that to Imam. Imam, you have the last word. But I have a question. Yeah. You can finish it. That is, people are worried that, like you've said, most of the people who go to the mosque are elderly people who make it a point of duty that they don't miss any prayers. And it's the elderly that are most affected when it comes to this COVID-19. Don't you think the reopening of the mosque is going to expose the elderly even greater than when the mosques were closed?
Well, it sound right. It sounds very right. But this pandemic, according to experts, it affects the elderly one, especially with those who have complicated underlying problems. Not necessarily only your age. You can even be very young, but since you have underlying problems, you can be also vulnerable. So really, that's why in my mosque we respect the social distancing, and we make sure we clean, wash our hands clearly, and we make sure also, I mean, all the regulations are respected. But Jam, we will not do justice if we don't praise and proud of Red Cross. You know, Cham, there is nobody in this country, no religious leader who work harder than I do as far as this pandemic is concerned. And Hassan Senghor can bear me a witness. And day one, I realized this issue as a religious and social problem. And I buckle up, and since then I'm working with whenever I'm called upon. But really, the way and the manner Red Cross is doing, especially when people pass away, they deserve a big applause. So I'm really full of them, especially Mr. Hassan Senghor, and knowing although he's younger than me, but he's not that much young. He's aging also. But at any given time, during night, any minute you call us and one ring, he will receive it and he will come into your aid. So really, we are very much proud of Red Cross. We are very much proud of Hassan Senghor on his leadership. And we are also really expecting people to comply and emulate what Red Cross is doing. Let's come together. Let's come together. Let's come together and forget our personal interests. That can come later when lives are existing. Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Thank you very much, Imam Babali, the Imam of Kanifing South Mosque, and a prominent Islamic leader. East. Oh, well, it's South or East. Okay. All right, Kanifing East. There you go.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Mr. Omar Ceesay, President of the Gambia Transport Union, and of course, Prince Abubakar Sankanu, Information Officer and a member of the Gambia Government Emergency Response Team for COVID. Thank you very much, all of you, for participating in yet another edition of the brunch. Not forgetting, of course, our colleague Nima across the Atlantic in Illinois. Thank you, Nima, for waking up very early in the morning. Our apologies to Mr. Camara for letting you wake up very early in the morning. Mr. Dabo, that is. Mr. Dabo, oh yes, but Camara since corrected.
Camara is fine.
Camara is fine. Fatura just corrected. Is Camara fine?
Yeah.
Because you are Camara.
We are doing the reverse.
Fine. Okay, fantastic. So good morning to you there in Illinois, and thank you very much for being with us. Until we come back your way next week, when of course we will have the Red Cross as wished by Imam Leigh. I'm Lamin Cham, wishing you have a great weekend.
Love like fire. Wow. Love like fire. Xam ngeen rek affaire bi xam ngeen fan la? Skincare la. 2020 lañ wax de. Waaw. Fii nag mooy kër fan, kër zero tache. Perfect skin. Skincare saa su ne rek niñ ko dee defee rek. Loo lañ soxlaati rek. Maanaam bu ngeen am problème ci seen skin yéen xam ngeen fan la fii ngeen di ñëw suma xarit yeeg am di jàmm yi nga xam ne taas daf lañ sonaloon xam nga doon xeesal ba la ka xum éneew ma lañ ko nag waaye just in case comme ni ko gars yi defee rek en cas just in case loolu xew xam ngeen fi ngeen di ñëw skincare plus si yu baax rek la ñoo dox nag ay baax rek fu ne la ñoo dem ci réew mi di lañ indi rek nag products yu baax du Paris du Italie du USA du fi mu nekk nii sax boole nañ ci nag Sweden fu nekk lañ leen a indi les products bu dee tamit nag da nga ñuul rek ñu lay jamaa natural beauty that melanin dripping we do have stuff for you as well emuñ si skincare products rek
ñu ngi ci cuub yi tamit fu ne la ñoo jaar in fact sax last commercial bi ñu defoon waxuñ leen woon ne dañoo dox ci ay kawar 9A grade rek nag waaw. we do have bundles as well hair si lu ne la ñoo dox ñun ñu ngi ci rafetal jigéen rek luy taaral jigéen rek waaw boo leen di tukki tamit bëggoon rek classic suitcase dañoo dox ci ay Samsonite duñ dee indi any brand of suitcases though other than Samsonite comme li ma dee wax rek boo eggee airport dëri Samsonite dafa am nuñ laa xoolee waaw ngeen ne lan nag waaw skin ci moom la ñu gën a xamee nag skin care products ci moom la ñu gën a xamee ñu ngi dox tamit bentee tamit si ay dàlla man waaye man nag skin care mooy suma specialty xam nga rek jigéen bu sa xar kanam réglé loo def mu jag am nañ Patricia Reiner, Kiwi Eye, the whole range, Lighten Up Gold, Tomatine. I mean, the list can just go on and on and on and on. lépp loo xam ne rek luy taaral jigéen la ci yooyu rek la ñoo dox. Skin Care Plus nag emuñ si Gambia rek ñu ngi United States ñu ngi Gambia fii ba pare bu dee yaa ngi anywhere in Europe mun nañ la ko mail within 3 days rek ñetti fan rek nga jot say diw emuñ si loolu rek dañ laa consult tamit balaa ñu laa jaay diw dinañ def a free consultation pour wax la rek exactly li nga xam ne moo méngoo ak sa kanam dinañ leen wax tamit ne rek am nañ perfumes, you know, fragrances, men's shirts, accessories. We do dresses as well. We do blouses. I mean, we do shoes. Name it, we do them. Skincare Plus 2020 is our year of perfection. Zero task. Fi mu nekk nii réew mi fii kenn waratu fi task kenn waratu fi am problème kanam kenn waratu fi am problème yu picca boo ko amee dafa fekk ne rek ñëwuloo ci place bi fii. Love, love, love like fire. Bring my love and your good my fire. Love, 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 love like fire.
We live in a day and age where technology is creating a world without borders, filled with unlimited potential to improve the lives of the people around us. Innovarex Global Health ushers in a new way of leveling the playing field with increased access to quality healthcare services delivered at your doorstep. Our qualified professionals are equipped with state-of-the-art point-of-care testing technology to conduct tests such as kidney function, liver function, electrolyte tests, body composition, hemoglobin, A1C, and many more services with the highest efficiency in delivering results. The addition to our flagship Wellness on Wheels, more fondly known as WOW Delivery Service, brings the entire clinical experience full circle. IGH has remained committed to creating the future of healthcare delivery. Gone are the days of sending loved ones outside the country for basic medical services. Innovarex Global Health offers a new peace of mind and takes pride in delivering the quality of care we all deserve.